Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the March meeting of Leeds Council Executive Board. I'll just start by reminding everybody that this meeting is a webcast, and I will go on to the formalities at the top of the agenda. So, item 1, are there any appeals against refusal of inspection of documents, please?
Thanks, Chair. To confirm, there's been no appeals received for today's meeting. No.
Thank you. Is there any exempt items, please?
Yes, Chair. Should the board be agreeable, then Appendix 1 to Item 7, which is the District Heating Update Investment Plans Report, designated as being exempt from publication under Access to Information Procedure Rule 10.43. That would be considered in private at the conclusion of the public part of the meeting.
Thank you. On to late items, and there is a late item on the Transformational Regeneration Partnership due to the fact that these papers were published before the government's budget last week. I'll turn to the board for item 4 and declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Don't see any. Item 5 is the minutes of the February meeting. Is everybody happy with those minutes? I can see everybody is. So we'll move on to the first substantive paper, which is Councillor Cooper, please.
Thank you, Leader. And my report today is the financial reporting health monitoring report for month 10, which is January. The report, members will know, shows an improved position on the previous month, which was December, and we're now reporting an overspend of £36.3 million currently. So the report does go through the detail of where the overspends are reflected in the organisation, and also notes that by the end of the financial year, that the use of reserves and the one-off funding that we got from Wicker will help to balance. But in the meantime, directorates are asked to continue with their action plans to mitigate any overspends within their departments. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Are there any comments, please? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just, it's pretty self-explanatory. I think what I'm looking for is a bit of reassurance that the action plan specifically for children's services is on track, to make sure that we're still reporting a balanced position when we go into the new financial year.
Julie, please.
Yeah, I think as we've said at previous meetings, we've got a robust scrutiny around that, Councillor Lamb, just in terms of the delivery board, in terms of specific task and finish groups that I'm chairing alongside Victoria. And also we've got our additional scrutiny by our elected members, and we meet once a month, again, just to ensure that the plans for children's services are on track. As we've said previously, we've got that ongoing increased demand. And so the challenges do remain, alongside the demand in terms of children's needs, but equally in terms of the rising costs associated in particular with children's external residential placements, which is without our control and is a national issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. With that, if there's no further comments on this report, I'll turn to the recommendations on page 26, and I see that the board is happy with those recommendations. Thanks, Councillor Cooper. And we'll move on to item 7, please, Councillor Rafiq.
Thank you, Leader. This is about the district heating network, which is an exemplar low carbon heating network, which continues to expand with a third phase now largely completed. The district heating network offers a cheaper, reliable, low carbon alternative heating compared to conventional gas and other forms of newer heating. Low carbon heating is provided to 1,900 council tenants, mainly multi-storey flats, as well as 26 non-domestic buildings, including commercial customers and our own buildings in the civic quarter. The report provides an update following the July 2023 Executive Board, which approved the application to the Green Heat Network Fund for the next phase of the district heating network extension, focusing on Wellington Street and South Bank. The report seeks approval for the grant approval and heating funding for the schemes, authorize consultancy and legal contracts, and allocate capital program fund. This is a really, I think generally a very positive paper, Chair, which details the opportunity to provide low carbon heating to more areas of the city. I'd just like to take this opportunity to all the officers who actually done all the work on this front so far. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think this is a good report. Makes total sense to expand the network and keep going on that. I will have a question or two on in the private session, but for this section, the one question, it's a positive thing, but there's going to be disruption to deliver it. So I'm just looking for some reassurance about how the highway situation in the city centre will be managed. It's plenty of debates about the merits of some of the works that have been done in the city centre. It's well known. It's much harder to get around now. So how can we make sure that the disruption is kept to a minimum while this good piece of work is done?
Polly, please.
So we work really closely with Highways colleagues to have a look at timing. Up till now, we've delayed schemes under the advice of Highways. So we're always looking at the overall impact. The first section doesn't go down sort of main highway, so the impact will be more minimal. The kind of further extensions we're looking at are more significant, and at that point we will work with Highways. We look at alternative routes, so sometimes we do longer pipe work to avoid that main highways, but I think it's just that close interface that we've got, we will continue with.
Thank you, Polly. Are there any further comments on this item? I don't see anybody, so I shall note that Councillor Lamb wants to pick some points up when we discuss the exempt appendices, but is everybody happy with the recommendations? Take it everybody is. That's great, thank you. If we can move on to item 8, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is another a positive, good news story. The Air Quality Strategy report provides an update to Executive Board on the actions taken and their impacts on air quality since the publication of the Air Quality Strategy 2021-30. I'm really pleased to say that the data shows air quality is continuing to improve across the city. And I would like to thank the council officers for all their work on this, as well as the residents of Leeds for all their actions on this front in the city, and with everybody's cooperation and across the city, with that we can continue to make the air in Leeds safer and healthier for all to live and work in. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this report, please? Councillor Lamb, please.
It's just a comment, really, and you'll be disappointed to note 3 items in that I still entirely agree with what's just been said. It is a good report, obviously based on the white paper that we ultimately jointly brought forward in council. I recall when I was scrutiny chair, wandering around lots of locations with Polly in Leeds with the little diffuser tubes here, there and everywhere. And it's really pleasing that air quality is improving in the way it is without the kind of punitive measures that look like they might have to be implemented or forced upon us. So it's good piece of work, good report. Happy to support it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in on this report? No, that's great. I shall again turn to the recommendations on page 112 and take it everybody is happy with those. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rafiq. And we're on to your papers now, please, Councillor Lennox, item 9.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to be bringing this new paper about selective landlord licensing and the benefit it has and will bring to communities across Leeds. In June 2019, the Council approved the designation of selective licensing in areas of Beeston and Hare Hills. These designations will come to an end in January 2025 after the maximum 5 years allowed under the legislation for any scheme. And so we're bringing this paper to evaluate their impact and to examine what our next steps might be. This paper highlights some of the significant successes brought about by selective licensing in Leeds, and it asks that Exec Board recommends to allow officers to consider whether there's evidence for extending selective licensing in Beeston and or Hare Hills and or further areas and other areas of the city. And these will be linked to the Council's priorities to improve the quality of residents' homes, as well as to address health inequalities, which we know can be brought about by poor quality housing. So we're seeking approval to consider if there are any further areas for selective licensing linked to our 5 priority neighbourhoods which face the greatest challenges and levels of need and deprivation in their communities. And this will involve consideration of the area or areas which may meet the criteria as required in the Housing Act 2004, public and stakeholder consultation on the proposals, and to return to Executive Board early in the new year to share a business plan for consideration of a possible further scheme or schemes in the city. I feel this is a positive first step towards widening selective landlord licensing and therefore expanding the benefits that it gives to the residents in these communities, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do you want to come in, Councillor Lamb, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report and the introduction. So we supported this in 2019, and with a couple of reservations. Well, one of the issues obviously is COVID has got in the way of this, and one of the concerns, there's a lot in the report, a lot of anecdotal things. There's a lot of evidence that it's had a good impact. My concern is whether we've got the metrics to back that up, particularly when we're considering expanding it. And so I think it's the right thing to explore it further. What I'd like to suggest is that this gets a detailed look at by scrutiny before it comes back to Executive Board to properly measure the impact. If it's a good thing, and it's working well and there's no lessons to learn, let's do more of it and go further and faster. But I don't feel that the metrics are there to tell us. I know it has been discussed at scrutiny, but not in detail, sort of the same similar information to what we've got. And I think it would be a helpful step before we expand it to make sure if there are lessons to learn, we take those on board if there's going to be an expansion, and if there are aspects where it's not working so well, that can be taken on board. So that would be my caveat and suggestion.
Thank you. Jez, please.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, there has been some significant successes. I mean, you're right, we lost a little bit of time due to COVID, nearly 2 years there. But even in the short period of time that we had, we managed to arrange for 1,300 properties to be improved within the selective licensing areas. And also helped, particularly the police, in the removal of millions of pounds worth of cannabis there. So we feel we've made a real difference to the communities. We do pick it up within scrutiny, and we'll address it as part of our performance reports. And if it's felt that we need to do more than that, then we're happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jez. Councillor Lennox? Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, just to say thank you to all the officers and staff. This is a massively it was a massively complicated legal process to implement in the first place, and if Exec Board is minded to agree that we can move forward with exploring other areas, that will be more work. But I think the report details why this is a really important piece of work for the quality of homes in Leeds. Just to pull out one of the figures, around 80% of the properties inspected were found to have non-compliant elements which didn't comply with legal requirements, which just proves that around 80% of those properties needed improvement for the people who live there. This is the basis of why we need to be expanding this as much as we can for the citizens in Leeds.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox. I take it nobody else wants to come in, so I'll go to the recommendations on page 272, and obviously we'll take on board Councillor Lamb's point about scrutiny's involvement in the next step set out as well. So with that, I take it everybody is happy with those recommendations, and that's great. Thanks, Councillor Lennox. And if we could move on to your papers, please, Councillor Arif, and item 10.
Thank you, Chair. So the Kirkland Specialist Learning Disability and Autism Development will be a flagship service for Leeds, which will help support the needs of its citizens now and in the future. The service consists of 6 high-quality bungalows for adults with severe learning disabilities and complex autism who display behaviours which the local authority and the NHS have been unable to provide suitable community accommodation for in Leeds regionally or nationally. The service will help support individuals live and receive care closer to home. The project is an invest to save development which will help provide community support for some of our most vulnerable individuals and also provide a local authority asset and a service to be proud of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any comments on this paper? Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, just briefly, I'd say very happy to support this.
Thank you. And with that comment, I'm going to turn to the recommendations and take it the whole board is happy with those. That's great. Thank you, everybody. If we can move on to item 11, please.
Yes, Chair, that's me again. So with this report, we've got a market position statement which provides an overview of the support and care services people need, the current provision available within the local authority area and identifies potential commissioning opportunities for the care and support provider market. The Care Act of 2014 sets out duties on all local authorities responsible for delivering adult social care services to facilitate a diverse, sustainable, high-quality care and support market for their whole local population, including people who fund their own care. The new MPS summarises the supply and demand for adult social care and support services in Leeds and identifies business gaps and opportunities within the care and support market. It also covers the key council strategic drivers and the financial challenges facing the council to help providers of care and support services to respond to these. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. One of the things that stuck out in the report is that 27 out of the 97 homes in the city have got a requires improvement rating with the CQC. So I wondered if you could tell us how concerned we should be about that and what action plan we have to address that and make sure that gets better and not worse.
Tony, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think we're all fed up of hearing the words of COVID and pandemic, but the CQC basically were unable to actually get out and review a lot of the quality of care homes because obviously it does involve on-site visiting and inspection. So there is a huge backlog from that perspective. However, our commissioning team does have a quality and monitoring function, which has been running all the way through that period and actually monitors both complaints, safeguarding inquiries, and now that COVID is over, we do actually go out and visit all homes to enable us to ensure the quality. Where that has a clinical aspect, we work with the ICB to ensure that obviously we take a view of handling of medicines, etc., etc. So regardless of that, we do work a way of actually stratifying our risk, if you like, in terms of those providers. We do monitor them, and where we do have issues, we will suspend actually using a care home for a period of time while we put in an action plan to actually help them develop that quality and move that forward.
Thank you, Tony. Great. Is there any more? Councillor Lamb, please.
So can I just clarify, is the backlog of visits purely focused on those that require improvement, or is that in general? Because if it's in general, potentially that means there could be more care homes that fall into the requires improvement category.
It's a national issue to a certain degree where they are still playing catch up. And again, because there are hard changes, there are new services that come through with CQC. You know, they do have to prioritise or put some level of prioritisation in. At this present moment, they are having to do still a bit of a reactive, shall we say, where they believe there's the highest risk, they are actually getting out and reviewing those organisations from that perspective. Obviously, we do monitor this heavily in terms of the CQC element. But again, just return to the previous comment that regardless of CQC status, we do monitor from our own perspective as well. And I suppose just for information, the CQC elements, sometimes you can get into sort of a requires improvement or an inadequate on a number of domains, even though the care could be actually good. It can be around whether the organisation is well led and other factors that could determine that. So it is an important thing for us to monitor. But as I say, there are a number of factors that do play into that.
Thank you, Tony. It's great. I don't see any more comments on this paper, so I'll turn to the recommendations on page 309. I take it the board is happy with those. It's great. Thanks, Councillor Arif. And on to your papers, please, Councillor Venner.
I've just got one paper today, Chair, and it follows quite neatly from the last papers that I brought to Exec Board, which were about increasing the fees and maintenance that we pay to foster carers and making being care experience to a protected characteristic. And this is another paper which aims to improve support for children who are looked after. So this paper is about a revised and improved offer to carers who are special guardianship order carers. So that's where people, usually kinship carers, sometimes long-term foster carers, go to court and get a special guardianship order for a child, and then they become the parents of that child. They have parental responsibility and the child is no longer looked after. This is the culmination of a number of years' work, which I've been very directly and proactively involved in myself, because when I was first in this role, or a year or so in, I got a lot of direct feedback from both kinship carers and SGO carers about people not going for SGOs and discouraging each other from doing so because of a belief that people would be disadvantaged compared to if they were mainstream foster carers. And some of this is issues outside our control to do with benefits, but quite a lot of it is in our control. And it's not only about money. It was also things like, if you became an SGO carer, you'd lose your right to get a leisure pass, you'd lose access to the therapeutic social work team. And those are all things that we can change to make a better deal for SGO carers, because we want children to be on SGOs because it provides stability and permanence, and it stops children being looked after. And we know that the outcomes are better for children if they're in a permanent arrangement, and ideally if they're in families. And it's usually kinship families who go for SGO and long-term foster carers. In terms of the finance, it saves money for the authority immediately in children not being looked after, because you don't need a social worker, you don't need an independent reviewing officer. The fee that we pay SGO carers doesn't include child benefit, which isn't the case for foster carers or kinship foster carers. The paper refers to some potential long-term costs. However, this is around the fact that at the moment, you have to wait till the child's 10 to go for an SGO, and we're removing that barrier. So the potential cost would only be if people go for an SGO for a younger child who wouldn't have done it anyway when the child got to 10. One of the main things that we're putting into the policy, which makes this a better financial deal for SGO carers, is that they can apply for staying put like mainstream foster carers can, so they can look after a child as they become a young adult. However, foster carers can apply for that as well. So there's nothing to say if a child remained looked after, they wouldn't be on a staying put policy with a foster carer. So although there are some theoretical costs, actually, the advantages of doing this massively outweigh any disadvantages. We're also removing, at the moment, we review the funding we provide after 2 years. And again, that's a disincentive because people worry that if they go for an SGO, they'll only get funding for 2 years. Now, in practice, we don't remove that funding. However, it is a worry for people. However, financial support will be means tested if a child's never been looked after and the carer isn't on any benefits. So overall, a better SGO offer reduces the number of children that are looked after in the city. It improves the reputation of SGOs. It encourages people to become SGO carers and provides permanence and stability for children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Venner. Councillor Lamb would like to come in, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the introduction. I think the starting point is this is a positive step. I think the most important consideration, is it the right thing for the children and young people involved? And I think in a lot of cases, this is a much better outcome for them. Again, for all of us sat around this table, the £10,000 a week average cost of external residential placements. I now understand that about 30% of that, so £3,000 a week, is profit, which is, I'm 100% with all of you. It is a scandal. There should be something done nationally to address that. I still think there's more we could do locally to just say no, we're just not paying it. If enough local authorities do it, I think there's an argument for that, and it's not the best outcome for the children either at that expense. That's the most sickening part of it. If it costs 30,000 a week to get them a really good outcome, fine, absolutely. But yeah, so this direction of travel is positive. I do wonder if there's more to do to sort of deal with those perhaps misconceptions people have about whether this is the best thing for them and the best outcome for the families, to give more parity to foster carers, or make it clear that effectively you do have parity with foster carers, but you're giving permanence to a child, and also to really look at that package post 18, to make sure and it's such a worthwhile investment to me to make, to give children that certainty that, right, we've got a stable life, we're as close as possible to everybody else, to all of our friends, and so yeah, I'd just like us to see us do more of this and go further, and you'd absolutely have our wholehearted support with that.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Councillor Venner, please.
Yeah, just to come back on a couple of words, thank you for your support. With regard to the residential costs, it is a market that really needs national regulation. There's a huge amount of lobbying, cross-party lobbying on this, as well as from the LGA, Children's Charities, the Children's Commissioner. I think where we end up paying these obscene amounts of money, and the level of profiteering is disgraceful, is usually in a situation of absolute crisis where they've got us over a barrel. That's the problem. But you're right, it doesn't deliver the best outcomes for children. Private providers are way more likely to give notice on a child with challenging behaviour at short notice. It shouldn't be a market at all. There shouldn't be a market in vulnerable children. And the fact that, as you said, you've got margins of 20 to 30% is just shocking, and it does need national regulation. You're also right about the comms around the SGO offer. We do need to make sure that we're really clear about the messaging. Kareen's here, who leads our care leaver services, and Farah, as well as Julie, the deputy director, and we will make sure that we get that message out really clearly through our social work teams that are supporting both kinship carers and SGO families. I think one point just to make is that this isn't the right thing for all children. Some children who are looked after have such a strong bond to their birth parents that someone else having parental responsibility for them wouldn't be the right thing. And we need to be really clear. It's not the right thing for all children, but it will be the right thing for many children, particularly children that are already in kinship care. And we will make sure that we promote it and that we're really clear about what the advantages are for the carers as well as for the children in going down this route. Thank you.
Julie, please.
Yeah, I suppose I just wanted to add really, and just to highlight that our whole focus in Leeds, is around family valued. So it is about recognising that children are best brought up by family. The paper here today and the improved offer for our SGO carers, will enable more children in particular to stay with kin, and that is key for us. Nationally, we have helped shape that policy and the focus on kinship care and children being brought up by families. And we absolutely will continue to promote that and publicise that and encourage and enable more family to look after the children. In terms of the external residential challenges that we have, again, as has been stated, that is a national issue recognised nationally, a lot of work being done around that. But we also have our own local strategy in relation to that in terms of sufficiency. I'm pleased to say that the majority of our children looked after are in foster care placements, are in family placements. And I'm also pleased to say that we are looking, to increase our own residential provision where we know that the quality of that, is monitored. We've had 2 inspections last week, actually, of 2 of our internal children's homes. One was rated as good. The other, for the 6th time running, was rated as outstanding. And that's one of our homes for children with the most complex of needs in the city. So a real clear strategy around family valued, creating, additional SGO placements where children can be cared for by family. But as Councillor Venner says, for some children who cannot be cared for by family and whose needs are best met in residential, we have our own strategy around that to grow our own, increase our own, and continue to have quality provision in Leeds.
Thank you, Julie. Tom, please.
Yeah, I was just going to make one point. Just I visited the outstanding rated residential home this year, and it is fantastic to see it at first hand, the support that the staff provide and the environment that it creates for children who really need our support, which is brilliant. I was going to say I'm on the national board for the care review, and I've obviously interact through meetings, but it would be, given the strength of feeling around the table, around the external residential position, I'd be really happy to write to the Minister just to reiterate, the feeling of this board around that particular issue of profiteering. And I have obviously mentioned it before, but it does help when we've got cross-party positions and, such strong feelings. So really happy to do that with the help of the team, if that would be helpful.
Thanks, Tom. Tell by the nods around the table we agree. Councillor Venner, please.
I forgot to say in my introductory comments, this isn't just in Leeds we're doing this. This has been a piece. This is one of the reasons it's taken quite a long time to get to this point. This is a piece of work we've done across West Yorkshire with the other councils, so that we've got a consistent offer for SGO carers. Having said that, our offer in Leeds is slightly better with in relation to staying put, but we wanted to improve the offer for SGO carers across West Yorkshire, not just in Leeds. So we've been doing this work through One Adoption West Yorkshire and through the other DCSs and lead members. So it's an improvement across West Yorkshire, not just in Leeds, but we've kind of led it, really. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn to the recommendations on page 354, and I take it the board are happy with those. Thank you, Councillor Venner. We're on to my paper, which is the level 4 devolution for West Yorkshire. This paper sets out the exchange of correspondence recently between Mayor Brabin and the Secretary of State around moving towards level 4 devolution for West Yorkshire, and sets out our agreement to support further discussions around how that works, and also the need within West Yorkshire to review the work between ourselves, the Combined Authority, and the 4 other councils in light of these changes. It's very much a notification of work to come on this, and I don't think I need to say much more by way of introduction. So I'm chairing my own item here. So Councillor Lamb, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, overall, it's a positive step. There are some good things, some not good things. I think there's an increased danger of duplication across the Combined Authority and local authorities in some areas, and we really need to be mindful of that and have some smart conversation at the Combined Authority board level and with councils to make sure we're not creating 2 lots of organisations to effectively look at the same thing. There's some cases where it's absolutely the right thing to look at it at a Combined Authority level. Others, transport is one example. Others around housing, I think, and perhaps some of the licensing which are on the table. I'm reassured by the comments we've had from the Combined Authority, but I think we just need to be mindful that we don't start duplicating. One concern I do have, I don't know if you're in a position to confirm, either Councillor Lewis or Tom, is I understand, well, it's been suggested to me, one of the asks from the Combined Authority has been the ability to use the mayoral precept to fund the £300 million plus costs of franchising, which, if that was true, would be about £800 a year on people's council tax bills. So is that something that's on the table or not?
So I welcome your comments on the last comment. Since the Combined Authority was formed before I knew who the mayor was. There has always been an ability to have a mayoral precept. It's not been used. It's not been used yet, and there would have to be quite a long process of consultation about introducing that with a very specific I understand a very specific proposal would have to be consulted on, and that hasn't. That's not something that's underway at the moment. With no other comments, I'll turn to the recommendations on page 373 and see if there is everybody's happy with that. I take it people are. That's great. Thank you. So if we could move on to item 14, and which is a late item, please, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for accepting this late published item on the agenda. This report reflects some very fast-moving work between the council and partners, which has had some reliance on confirmation of funding and announcements in last week's spring budget. So this is a unique and exciting opportunity for the council and for the city, reflecting its genuine and welcome commitment from government to work on us on accelerating delivering our regeneration plans for the city centre and surrounding areas. The Leeds Transformational Regeneration Partnership will comprise government through the Department of Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, Homes England, the Mayo Combined Authority and Council. It arises through a shared recognition of the positive and significant changes that have consistently been achieved in the city over the last 10 years or more. Through the work of the council, private sector investment and the commitment of partners and anchor institutions, but also from an acknowledgement that the city can deliver so much more with the potential for more mixed tenure homes, more high quality employment opportunities relating to our key economic sectors that reach further into our communities and even greater contribution to the regional and national economy. The partnership will focus on the city centre and how we can enable planned growth and development with particular benefit to the people and businesses in those surrounding neighbourhoods that have not benefited as well as they might have in the past from past success. We have worked with government on the production of high-level partnership vision that sets out the 6 neighbourhoods where we will focus and 3 key themes to the generation work we will be bringing forward: housing growth, neighbourhood regeneration, economic development, including our cultural sector offer, and transport and connectivity, with rail and mass transit being key. As the report sets out, though, this is not new work. It will bring to life the ambitions we have already set out for the city centre and city rim in the recently refreshed inclusive growth strategy of last year, and reflects long-standing plans, engagement and consultations across many of those places. It's a very exciting time ahead, and we have a strong pipeline for development. We have the oven-ready schemes due to the fantastic work that has gone on by the council over the last few years to set a plan for further investment and inclusive growth for the next decade, aligned with our local plan review. And we will ensure that as we develop the vision and plans, we engage and consult all our communities, businesses and investors so that they are the heart of the city centre growth and regeneration that works for everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And totally support this. This is a really good piece of work for the city. The government investment is extremely welcome, and I'm glad that Councillor Hayden acknowledged that. It's not something that could be done without all agencies working in partnership. Really good work from the officer team on this to bring this forward, and I think it's very exciting. The permanent cultural offer is really important as an anchor. It's the right sort of places to be building new homes, and helping to reinvigorate the city centre as well, which I think will help with footfall, and so there's going to be lots of knock-on benefits from this. So it's a really good scheme, good partnership all round. So yeah, very happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Don't see anybody else wanted to come into this item, so I'll turn to the recommendations on page 3 of the late paper, and I take it everybody is happy with those. That's great. Thank you, buddy. That brings to the end of the public part of the meeting. We've just got the one exempt item to consider. Thank you for everybody who's come along and had to wait for us to move on to the exempt item.